Hey there, my name is Fran Sands. Here's me, a face only a mother could love, I'm regularly told. I live in Liverpool, England, with my wife and 2 children, and I'm the founder of myboxingcoach.com. I've been a boxing coach since 1995. Today I'm going to tell you about the most memorable, shocking and inspiring night of my life as a boxing coach. Now, there are many reasons why I've spent so many years teaching the noble art of boxing, and being regularly inspired by cool people is up there as one of the main reasons. On my coaching journey there have been many ups and many downs, and I thought I'd seen pretty much everything there was to see. But as with much in life though, in boxing, one of those what the hell moments can always be just around the next corner. I'm telling you this story so that you can take from it the positives and inspiration to help you achieve your own goals, whatever those goals may be. At the heart of this story is the conflict between doubt and confidence, fear and calmness, and cowardice and courage. And I believe we all face this conflict regularly in some form or other throughout our lives, and that's certainly true in the context of fighting. A key realisation that dawned on me during the night of this story was that confidence and self-belief can grow in direct proportion to the development of skills, knowledge and experience. I've witnessed this phenomenon over and over again, and it's always pretty amazing, although the events of this particular night stood out from all of the others by some considerable way. Another key realisation was that people can do some pretty amazing stuff in the face of intense and challenging situations. Now look, there are aspects of this story that you may find hard to believe. I mean, hell, I even find it hard to believe now. However, I can promise you, every word is true. Quite simply, it is the single most powerful memory that I have from my coaching career so far. The story is about a young man called Jay, who first walked into our boxing gym at the age of 15. He was a tall, thin and very, very quiet young man. I don't recall any first impressions other than the fact that he was always in the background. Jay suffered a severe lack of self-confidence and self-esteem. He wasn't inclined to mix too much with the other boxers, preferring instead to quietly get on with his training. He was pretty much unremarkable in every way. Now, in my experience, the average length of time it would take to get a boxer prepared for their first contest is between 6 and 12 months. So that's from knowing pretty much nothing to being a novice who can take basic instruction and follow a simple game plan. This is not a hard and fast rule. Some boxers might be ready slightly sooner, some slightly later. In the case of Jay, it took us 2 years to be ready to put him into a fight situation. 2 years. So let's put that into some kind of context. It takes the United States Navy 2 years to train a naval aviator. That's from knowing nothing to being able to fly a naval strike aircraft in 2 years. So why did it take us so long to be willing to put Jay into a fight situation? Well, it wasn't that Jay was not picking up the skills or developing the strength and conditioning. While he was hardly turbocharged in his development, it was evident that he was working the focus mitts. As we were working the focus mitts, he was gradually learning to throw technically correct shots with some speed and some power. Whilst the skills were developing at a steady, maybe pedestrian pace, the confidence levels and self-belief remained worryingly low. And this lack of confidence and self-belief was never more evident during sparring. When Jay sparred, you could almost see the word scared shitless written tall across his forehead. Jay's nervousness and excessive caution were what dominated his strategy for spars, regardless of who he was in the ring with. Jay's flinch reflex was all-consuming, and at the first sign of an incoming shot, Jay's eyes would shut, his head would dip, and his arms would come up in a "please make it stop" pose. You see, for a fighter, the flinch reflex is incredibly important, but it must be channeled into something effective. Defense into attack. It's about controlled aggression in its purest form. Whilst his response to threat was as submissive as this, I could not even begin to consider putting Jay into his first contest. We were really beginning to wonder whether we would get there at all, to be honest. However, as with many things in life, persistence, patience and perseverance pays dividends. Gradually Jay became less nervous. He never climbed into a spar and oozed confidence, but he was managing his response to threat more like a fighter should. I tend to have three criteria to work out whether someone is ready to fight and not spar. Two things are different. Can the boxer defend him or herself? Will the boxer physically last the fight? Can the boxer take basic instruction and execute a simple game plan? We really didn't know how Jay would react on fight night with the additional pressures that an actual fight brought, but in terms of the three criteria, Jay ticked each of them. Just. Knowledge, skill and tactical experience were beginning to override Jay's lack of self-belief and self-confidence. After 2 long years, we decided to roll the dice and put Jay into the ring for real. On the night of the fight, preparations went pretty well. Jay was quiet, but this is quite usual for a boxer in the minutes before climbing the steps. Fighting is an intense and nerve-shredding experience, especially in the moments immediately before the fight. As long as the warm-up went well and there was a sharpness to his work, I wasn't about to worry about Jay not prattling on with small talk. There were to be 2 coaches working the corner. Jay was a good friend with my fellow coach Ash, and he had expressed a preference for her to be in the corner. Ash was just 17 at the time and was a novice coach. Ash would be the primary coach, and that's the one in the ring talking to the boxer. I was to hand up as the secondary coach, place the stool, wash the mouth guard, hand the drinks to the primary coach, and so on. Now, my view is that the handing up coach keeps quiet during the 1-minute interval. I think it's important that the boxer has one voice to listen to. Otherwise, things can become disordered, and disorder is not good. The corner should be a place of calm. I would talk to Ash during the round so that she knew what instructions would be issued for the following round. I was confident that between us, Ash and I could give Jay the best chance of getting the win. As the boxers were being introduced, I did my usual of looking the opponent over, measuring up height, potential strength, and whether they were orthodox or southpaw. This guy looked tall, powerful, and he was covered in tattoos. Overall, pretty intimidating. He was orthodox, or at least we didn't have the complexity of dealing with the southpaw. Jay's instructions from the outset were to use straight shots to gain control. It looked as if this would be a very tough night for Jay. It turned out to be tough, all right, but not in the way you would expect. The bell sounded and both boxers advanced to battle. As with many fights involving novice boxers, it was a frenetic start. Jay's opponent really went for him in a big way. From my viewpoint, Jay responded in the right way, maintaining his composure and, importantly, looking to hit back. He was fighting from behind his defence and not cowering behind his defence. The bell rang to end the hostilities for the first session, and Jay returned to the corner and Ash went to work, and I thought overall the round had gone pretty well. My view is that Jay's opponent had edged the round, but I felt that it was close and certainly something that could be built upon. During the round I spotted that Jay's opponent was vulnerable to uppercuts because he leant forward at close range. I pointed this out during the round to Ash, along with 1 or 2 other observations to give Jay during the interval. As Ash was issuing his instructions, I was happily rinsing the mouthguard, blissfully unaware of what was going on inside Jay's head. Then it happened. After about 20 seconds of the interval, something had changed. Jay all of a sudden looked at Ash through reddened eyes and said in an unmistakably panic-stricken voice, "He's too strong. I can't go back out. I can't." His voice was wavering and Jay was utterly convinced that he would be destroyed in the next round. He was adamant and repeated his content in no uncertain terms. I looked up from washing Jay's mouthguard and Ash looked at me wide-eyed with that what the hell look on her face. This was definitely not in the game plan. Jay had reached his breaking point. He had gone to the edge of what his emotions could bear. Fear had taken hold, and to his mind the only option was to get out of there in any way he could. If you think about this in conventional terms, Jay's reaction was a perfectly rational one. Hell, who wants to get beaten up, right? The problem is that we don't think in conventional terms. We are fighters. We think in terms of winning fights, no more, no less. The fact is that as a coach, I had to consider my options, which, to be fair, were quite limited. Honestly, time stood still. This was new territory for me. I'd often dealt with boxers getting into a mini panic before a fight, but never during the actual fight. I considered pulling Jay out. It's strange, but it's a natural instinct, paternal if you like, putting my arm around him and taking the kid away from danger. My overriding view, though, was that this was one of those rare, life-defining moments. If I allowed Jay to quit here, it would eat at him for years to come, and I didn't want to play any part in that. In fact, I would rather pull him out during the round or have the referee step in and allow a capitulation on the stool for a reason other than injury. It was unthinkable, really. So I broke my handing up rule of not speaking and used the word to the effect, Jay, you are in a fight, you will go back out and you will fight. There will be no other way. Admittedly, my language might have been a little more colourful than described here, but it was important that I got my point across. I added some tactical advice. If the guy is strong, then fight on the back foot. Maintain the distance and use long-range shots. Cancel out his strength with the right tactics. When the fight gets to close range, load up with those uppercuts. Looking back, it was the simplest and smartest decision I'd ever made as a coach. On this occasion, it was my job not to open a door, but to shut the door with a resounding slam. The question is, how would my boxer respond? Well, Jay did not let us down. He stood up, accepted his mouthguard from Ash, and he walked back to face the ogre in the opposite corner. For me, this was one of the finest acts of courage that I'd ever witnessed in a boxing ring. Here was a young man who had been consumed by fear and was able to gather enough inner strength to stand up and be countered. He had some simple tactics and techniques to deploy, and this gave him purpose, focus and will. For me, he was the most awesome fighter of the night. Now, many may question why someone would get in such a state. After all, look, it's only a boxing match, right? Well, those who've actually taken part in a fight would, I'm sure, understand the scenario. Not necessarily would a boxer see themselves being overtaken by emotions in such a way, but they would certainly understand how it could happen. It is a fine line between having fear as your friend and having fear destroy you from the inside out, in the words of Mike Tyson. After the fight, I told Jay that it was one of the proudest moments of my coaching career. To see a young man go to the edge of the abyss and control his fear enough to go back out and face a dangerous opponent, an opponent who he felt could hurt him bad, it was just awe-inspiring. This will live with me for many years to come. On that night, Jay had become a man. The result was inconsequential. The battle had been fought inside Jay, and he could hold his head high, knowing that he was now a boxer, a fighter in every sense of the word. I could not have been happier. I suppose you really do need to know that result, don't you? Look, it would be cruel not to complete the picture, and if you're still listening to me drone on, then I can only assume that you would hold at least a passing interest in knowing the outcome. Well, Jay went out into the second round, and after forcing 2 standing counts, watched the referee step in and halt the fight in the dying seconds of the round. He had won, and he had won in emphatic fashion. Jay was as joyous as any boxer that I'd ever seen, and why not? He had a lot for which to be very proud. So there you have it, fear and fighting going hand in hand. Even when a boxer feels like panic is setting in, he or she can always find a way back, can always find a way to keep control in the eye of the storm and ultimately become the victor. Possessing knowledge, skills and tactical smarts are a key factor to achieving this level of control, confidence and self-belief. We are boxers. We think in terms of winning fights, no more, no less, but be under no illusion. The first fight that we must always win is with our own emotions. So, you're feeling inspired? To help develop that knowledge, skills and tactical awareness, you could do a lot worse than check out my close range fight control system. Look, if you're the get fit quick type, the type who cuts corners, or the type who lacks the will and discipline to apply a structure to your training and learning, then this system is not likely to help you. This is a system that requires commitment and dedication. So, what you get? Well, 5 hours of detailed coaching on the skills, drills and tactics needed to master fighting at close range. This will transform your boxing style and capabilities. You will amaze yourselves. Now look, whether you're competing, if you are competing, you will have a depth of information here that will massively improve your chances of getting a victory. If you box purely for fitness purposes, you will be amazed at the extra dynamism, speed, strength, power that comes to your training and comes to you because you're applying all of this stuff. It is intense and it is designed for results. Buy today and you get a big discount. Instant access, fully accessible on PC, tablet and smartphone, streamed and downloadable. This stuff is amazing. Okay, risk-free purchase. You don't like it, I'll give you your money back. No questions asked. Okay, no questions asked. Click the link below and jump on board. Thank you, and don't forget, be inspired.